topic. Let's go. Right. Today is going to be a fun one because we're going to talk about meeting metrics. And I know everybody loves this topic, right? About how can we be more effective? How can we be more efficient? And I want to talk about the difference between the two and where most organizations are falling down today. And I think this topic in particular is going to be super relevant and very, very helpful, for a lot of folks out there. For those of you who are joining us for the first time live, what is up? We have our first, let's see here. If you all want our Modern Leader newsletter, make sure you sign up for that. That one's going crazy, where we talk about all things that innovative leaders are doing to stay on top of the game. This topic today is certainly one of those topics, which is this idea of, and what I love about this, and again, I've given my boy Richard Harris some credit for this in the past, but Richard, about 2 or 3 years ago, he and I were talking. If you don't follow Richard Harris, go follow Richard Harris too. And he said, Jake, you know what the mindset problem is? People are too focused on efficiency versus effectiveness. And for me, it was like, wow, that is a really, really good way to say that, because that's exactly what a problem, the number one, it is literally the number one issue in outbound, the number one. And I think we want to make it like the channels are saturated, and don't get me wrong, these things are true. But I can also tell you that in our quest to want to do more, it is why we are not seeing the results that we want today. So we've got some other things coming up here too. Let me give this shout out. If you are around tomorrow, and let's say if you've ever thought about like starting your own company, make sure to check this out. It is from go-to-market leader to CEO, where I will talk about my trials and tribulations. Let me drop in the chat for all my Zoom folks too. Boom. I will talk about all my trials and tribulations and things that I learned from going and being a VP of sales and operations to a CEO. And trust me, my friends, there were a lot of learnings. So make sure to tune in. Again, if you've ever thought about starting your own business or ever thought about, running your own company, definitely join me there too, which I think will be a killer one for you. So let's jump in. Today's topic is, drum roll please. Today's topic is, again, like I said, one that's very near and dear to my heart: how to increase rep efficiency by expecting less. Why quality should be your top of funnel metric. I mean, I hope a lot of people out there are like, let's go. Yes, absolutely, please. Because I'm telling you, we work with, and let me just give you not that I need to, but let me give you kind of my street cred on this, okay? Our company, Skaled, we work with at least 100 plus organizations every single year on optimizing their outbound performance. We work with teams that have hundreds of people doing outbound, mix of AEs and SDRs. So companies that have their AEs doing prospecting, SDRs, companies that sell to the enterprise, companies that sell more transactional. So I and the team get a chance to see what is working and what is not. And I can tell you unequivocally, I don't know if I've ever used that word correctly, but it felt like the right word, that the teams that are performing today are the teams that do not have a significant number of their steps in their sequences as send all. The other big thing they're doing is they also don't just have the first touch point customized. My friends, what do you think happens to the first touch point every single time? It gets archived. It gets archived. People are busy. And so I want all of you to just think about that if you just are only customizing the first touch point and then you go to send all, it's like, what are you doing? I'll talk about some other things they're doing too around using video, using LinkedIn, which obviously is just, table stakes in my book. So, all right, why quality conversations should be and again, you can call them quality conversations, you can call them meaningful conversations. I don't really care what you call them, just as long as you do something about it. Make sure to stick around to the end too. In case you all don't know, we started our new format a couple weeks ago where I will be spending the last like 10 minutes doing Q&A. I've got a roster of I think like 2 or 3 questions already, but if you have questions on this topic, other sales related topic, we will cover those at the end. But if you have questions about what I'm talking about now, surely hop in. So number one, why quality, maybe I'm going to try to convince you on why quality should be your number one top of funnel metrics. Outside of you can already see the results. Okay. Number one is before we had tools that I guess helped us to do more activity without just hitting send all. We used to have to like send a bunch of emails. And so we kind of naturally would customize them unless marketing was sending them because we just had to send them one-to-one. And when you have to send an email one-to-one, you start to think about more and more of like, hey, if I'm sending this one-to-one, I want to get a meeting with that person. So that to me is one of the biggest shifts I've seen is that we've stopped making the goal to get a meeting with that one person, which is kind of crazy. It's like, forget the sequence. You're trying to get a meeting with John Smith. And I want that meeting. I want to get that meeting. Whether that person's one of 200 people in my sequences or I'm sending a one-to-one email, I think we've lost track of the fact that the goal is to get a meeting with an individual. And people, how long should our sequences be? It's like, well, if John Smith is the right person, you should not stop until you get a, hey, talk to somebody else or, not interested or yeah, let's book a meeting. So I think, again, for a lot of you, just think about that mindset that like, how bad do you really want to get a meeting with one person as a part of this versus trying to, I guess, like over and over again, just like spam people. And again, think about that. This is where the quality over quantity falls down because what we're instead of focusing on, I want to get a meeting with John Smith. What more and more people are focusing on now is like, I want to do a number of activities to these people. And it's not that they're necessarily like completely opposite, but I will just tell you is like more and more organizations need to realize that if your sales organization isn't trained to think in that mindset, to think in the mindset of, guys, look, we're not trying to, get a meeting with everybody. If that person's in your book, it is your job to get a meeting with that person. And I think we've lost sight a little bit of that, right? And so as a part of that, again, I think we have to start to think about the over focus on quantity, that we are actually, and it's not on purpose, we are training people to be more focused on doing the activity than getting the meeting, right? More focused on doing the activity than getting a meeting. So again, I would think of that, like very, very clearly or closely for your own org on what is your focus? Is your team focused on doing more activity or booking meetings? Because it doesn't matter where the quality conversation, it could be email, call, LinkedIn, DM, a video, whatever, right? It matters that we're trying to book a meeting. And so doing activity is easy. Doing activity is easy. I can just go and it's like beep, beep, beep. And I can tell you every single sales org that has dial minimums of like 100 dials a day or whatever, there is a 100% chance that a lot of your people are doing fake activities, which is even worse, right? I mean, and trust me, I ran teams like that back in the day. I busted people with call sheets that literally, I caught this kid once, and he actually has had a very successful career in sales, and I didn't fire him. But he was giving a new hire, hey man, here's this list of like 30 numbers you can call, like that will boost your talk time, because they had to have dials and talk time. So anyway, it is what it is. So, all right, like I said, keep your questions coming if you have them. Management, quantity is BS. Okay, so Jared J. Geratz, I think I pronounced that right. Triple J, right? We'll go with Triple J. I like that one too. So he had a great question. He says, totally agree with you, but how do you convince management that quantity is bullshit versus being a sniper trying to get to the right person? So here's how I look at this, Jared. most companies, I truly believe this, are not out to not get results, right? I truly believe that even sales leaders that have unrealistic activity metrics as a goal, deep down, want to win. They don't. They want to figure out how to do it. The problem is most activity metrics are drawn from a mean of activity to meetings to opportunities generated to whatever the metrics are. So what that means is they look at this data in aggregate and they say, okay, 80 activities a day, 60, 70, whatever it is, okay? And it's really hard at times because we're used to this concept of sales math, and even though it doesn't really work at scale now. And so it's just normal. And so I'm going to give you all, it's a great one. We're skipping ahead a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the cheat code here. So here is how you get management to buy in what I'm talking about, okay? Number one is realize this. In order to do that, you're going to have to do more. And I don't mean more activity necessarily, but you might have to work a little bit more in the short term and from an hour standpoint to prove your point. Because I'm going to tell you the number one way to get this approved, to get this mindset approved by your leadership. Because don't worry about your peers. Don't worry. Well, you can send them this video and hopefully this will convince them too. But don't worry about your peers. This is more for you, Jared, in terms of like how you yourself can do it. Okay, is to say this. And this kind of leads into my other, piece here around other types of interactions. Is you go to your leader and you say this. You say, hey, Jared, I've been doing the activity for a little bit. I have a couple of ideas on ways that I think with these targets, if I have time to do a little bit more personalization, that I can actually increase my meeting set rate, where it may look like I'm doing slightly less activity, but I'm going to be spending that time to do a little bit more customization, not for all my touch points, but for some of the key ones. All right. Now, over the next 2 weeks, I'm still going to hit all my activity minimums. I'm going to do what we had, or maybe you want to say a month. So this month in March and April, I'm going to hit all the metrics. So that way you don't get any flack for, me not doing it. But what I am going to start doing is carving out part of my time above and beyond to start to do some of this outreach. My ask is this. If I can prove this to be successful, that I can do this, the next month, I'd like to just lower my minimums just slightly, test for me to be able to do a little bit more. And then if I'm able to prove it, I'd like to then suggest this going forward. That's it, Jared. I'm telling you, my friends, if you do what I just told you, most leaders will say yes. But you have to make it easy for them. Because understand, your frontline leader doesn't want to get the crap from their director or VPs. Like, why didn't Jared, hit his numbers? Because that just is what it is. So that's what you do. I'm going to give you that script one more time. Guys, mark it here. Mark it right now. I'm going to give you the script one more time. You go to your boss. Hey, I want to talk to you about setting more meetings. That's probably what I would say. I have a hypothesis that if I leverage LinkedIn more, or whatever it is, and again, I would be very specific in what my strategy, and personalized video, I can set actually more meetings and generate more pipeline. I understand that we have minimums. I understand that. Look, and I know that I know it's not your call probably. Here's what I'd like to propose. Over the next 3 weeks, you pick the time period. I don't care. I'm going to hit my minimums, and I'm going to carve out, though, 15% of my time extra to do this, to kind of see if this will work. If I'm able to be successful, I'd like to propose another 4 weeks where my minimums are just a little bit lower. I scale this a little bit more. And then if I'm able to prove that, I want to go all in because now I can show you that I can generate more meetings. If I can do that, are you cool with that? Most will say yes. That's it. That is the blueprint. So I hope that helps any of you with that convo. I'm telling you it will work, okay? So if you are a leader out there, Okay, here's what I want you to think about is make the goal, and I talk about this all the time, meaningful conversations or quality conversations. I define that in two very distinct ways. One, somebody who's getting me to the right person, or two, somebody who I'm having a back and forth with and we're trying to book a meeting. So instead, instead of saying 75 activities a day, I say 4 quality conversations a day. 4 times where you're interacting with someone, they're getting you to the right person. It's the first outcome. And if Jake, you can get there with 30 videos, Timmy can do it in 20 LinkedIn voicemails, amazing, right? And so setting up a metric, I'm not suggesting that the metric only is pipeline generated or whatever the number, but I'm saying let's move to first outcome because first outcome allows different people to play to different strengths. Again, I might be very terrified of video. I might be dyslexic and actually suck at emails because I suck, right? Or like I'm not good at like LinkedIn DMs because I'm dyslexic, right? But guess what? I'm amazing on the phone. I'm killing it on the phone and I can do video like you wouldn't believe. Great. Let me do that, okay? And so I think that's kind of a big point of this. Is the other thing is this, and I talk about this idea here. I'm going to drop this. This is one of my yes, Jared. And by the way, Jared, you have one piece of homework. So Jared said, love it. Appreciate the strategy. He's going to put it to work. Jared, you have to report back to me how it works. You have to report back to me what your boss said about this. All right. That is your one piece of homework that I would like you to deploy. So, sorry, my next point is, but Jake, how do I make it scalable? This is my favorite one, right? And I'm going to tell you, this is a saying that I probably borrowed it from somewhere if I'm being honest, but I think I made it up, which is just because something isn't fully automated doesn't mean it's not scalable. Run that back. Just because something isn't automated doesn't mean it's not scalable, right? And that's the issue, is that we keep looking and we keep thinking that in order for something to be scalable, it has to be automated. And that is just not how winning with cold outbound, right? Or even following up or nurturing works. And so that mindset is so critical to this, to say, look, and by the way, everything I'm talking about is 100% trackable. So now, like if you use Outreach or you use SalesLoft or you use Groove, if you use one of these tools, we partner with Outreach and SalesLoft, but it doesn't really matter what tool you're using. Okay. Let's say if you're using Outreach, I can set up a sequence that says day 1, connect on LinkedIn. Day 2, comment or find a post they liked and interact with it. Day 4, customized email. And I could have some templates I'm pulling from, but I'm customizing, right? Usually I want to add value. Or you could even push off the email. Day 5, comment or like on another post. Day 6, personalized video to anybody who first degree connected using LinkedIn mobile or personalized video email. Great, either one, right? Day 7, X, Y, Z. So my point is, look, you can set all of this up. You don't, I think what's happened is like, if it's not email, call in people's minds, it's like, it's too difficult to set up. Like, no, it's not. We do this all day long. And so I think that's like the last piece here is like, you can track this. We can look at the metrics. We can look at what's working, etc. So that is what's up right here. I'm going to put like a quick recap for everyone in here. And feel free, if you have questions like my man Jared here, make sure to just, again, feel free, drop them in here. I'm going to drop in a quick playbook, roughly, this new forecasting. I love this. Becca team, great job of summarizing a lot of this stuff. All right, so here you go for all my folks. We got a question, love it. Oh, oops, I just realized I shared that with not everybody. Here you go for all my folks joining on Zoom. Make sure you tune in for tomorrow. Again, oops, if you are starting your own business, like I said, please join us tomorrow. Okay, cool. All right, so question we have here. Question for later. Can you recommend a fantastic SDR outbound agency? This is a good one. So there's a couple that we have worked with outbound agencies that have been the best that we have partnered with. This is no knock on anybody else. Okay, these are just the people that we've worked with in terms of people who do outbound correctly and I know track the right metrics. Steven, what is his LinkedIn? Burton? Is it Steve Burton? Yeah, there he is. So one is Steve Burton and his team. And the other is Sales Roads. David. David. So solid as well. So if you'd like, Alan, it's Sales Roads. Just if you DM me on LinkedIn, I'll cook you up. But the company's Sales Roads and Point Co. So Steve Burton at Point Co, David Krieger at Sales Roads. Those two have been really good for us with a lot of other clients, but they're good. Okay. All right. So, let's get to some other questions here. So again, I hope this helps a lot of you. Look, and what I say is this, I did a LinkedIn Live with the head of SDRs at a company, that's about 3 months ago. And what they do is they look, he manages his top reps to pipeline generated. Then if they can't hit that, then he uses meaningful conversations and meetings. Then if they can't hit that, then he uses that activity, which I'm totally for that. If somebody can't get there in their own different ways, then you got to go with what the mean says the results will be. So I'm okay that activities is in there. I'm just not okay that we manage top performers and everybody to the same number. It's insane. No other business would say, hey, superstar athlete, we know that you can perform at X level, but you still have to run the same amount of laps, the same amount of whatevers. It's like, no, some people have to run more. Some people need to run a lot less. Doesn't even matter, right? So again, just think of that mindset there, right? Like I'm okay with activity being in the mix, but it shouldn't be what we default to manage people to that are top performers. Okay, so that's all I got for you. Okay, all right. Questions that I have here. What content? Okay, this is a good one. Okay, what content? So again, we're talking about setting meetings in different ways that aren't just email call. What content has worked best on LinkedIn for new creators or new salespeople to get interaction? All right, here I'm going to give you the cheat code for how to create content that your target audience will interact with. Give value consistently with no ask. No links, no mention of your company name. You have a really good conversation with a potential prospect. Summarize some of that, like top takeaways, share it on LinkedIn. And do that, 2 times a week, 3 times a week. And then you max out your connection requests on top of that. So you're growing your audience 100 plus people a time every week with just the top VPs you want to get in front of. And then that's how the snowball starts. You have your target account list, you're connecting with all of them. I'm putting out content that has no strings attached. Great. And it's not just for my peers to see and think I'm cool. So if you want to get traction on your content, think about trends in the industry. I love using ChatGPT for this. ChatGPT is really great at pulling out industry content. Okay, even though the data only goes up to 2021, it still is a lot of really relevant things that are happening. So that's what works. The best content is give with no ask, always. Okay, if your calendar is packed out, how do you find time to create content? This is a great one. So let's say you're somebody like me who has 50 or a lot of meetings per week. And it's like, Jake, how do I find time to create content? For me, I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips as a part of that. Number one is try to create the content in real time. What I mean by that is, let's say if you're on a sales call and somebody says something really interesting or insightful about your industry, just write it down. Like I do that all the time. If somebody says something, I'm like, ooh, that'll make a good post, right? I use Evernote personally. But that to me is one of the biggest ways. That way you don't have to have a lot of extra time blocked out in your calendar to actually, create on the side. Okay. The second thing that I do is I upgraded my phone. I got the new iPhone that's got the cinematic view, which is just like awesome. And what I do is I started to end my meetings 2 minutes early or 3 minutes. I mean, that's all I'm talking about, 2 or 3 minutes. And again, if I had a little note here, I've got a little tripod here. There you go. You can see it. It's right there. I just literally turn the camera on and just film a 50-second short real quick. So the key is that I think where a lot of people struggle is coming up with that time of like to be creative. I instead let my day-to-day work inspire me, and it's plenty creative for me. So that's what I do. I document little notes or things, and then I try to end my meetings a little bit early to just do some quick filming. So that works for me. I hope it helps a lot of you who, again, are trying to think about becoming a creator. You don't have to overthink it. You're talking to customers or potential customers. They're giving you pains and issues and things that are happening. Go share that with other people in the industry, and you'll see a big uptick in people interacting with you, and you'll find yourself creating a lot more content. Should you build or buy talent? What has worked for you, and what mistakes have you learned? Okay, build versus buy talent. Okay, this is a great one for any leader out there in particular. When I was the VP of sales at Glassdoor, when I started out, I had to buy talent. So we used a recruitment firm. Shout out to Betts Recruiting. They did an amazing job. They got me so many top performers. It was wild. So shout out to Betts Recruiting. We'll give them a little shout out here too. Betts Recruiting. Betts. The best for sales talent. 100%. Tech talent. 100%. There we go. Shout out to Betts. So I stocked my team with a lot of top performers and I had a really good onboarding and training program, right? And the mistake I then made is my leaders, I started to promote a lot of them to be leaders, right? To be first-time leaders. And so here's what I would say. There's a time in your company when you want to build and you've got time to nurture, and there's a time when you need people who've already seen around the corners. So to me, it's not black and white. It's not binary. Should I build? Should I buy? It could be in certain roles you can afford to build because you have processes, they're repeatable, and so people can come in. And others you need to bring in, you need to bring in that expertise. A big mistake that I made at Glassdoor, my first, I think 4, if not 5 leaders were all internal promotions. Some of them had some leadership experience, but we were scaling so fast. I had new leaders leading new hires. And it's not that they it failed, but they just didn't ramp as quick as if, we hadn't built out a robust leadership development program, for example. So it's like, look, if you've got a robust leadership development program, then you can build leaders more effectively. If you have a bad leadership development program, how are you going to build or develop your leaders? And it's not just for leaders. You could say the same thing for sales operations, which is another group I think that people mess up the build versus buy. They put like a junior SDR. They're like, oh, this person knows Salesforce. Like, my friends, revenue operations and sales ops is not about knowing Salesforce. It's about strategy and support. And so I think that there's just a lot of those hires. So my final advice is, look, it's never build versus buy. Think build when I have a somewhat repeatable process in place that I can put people into. Think buy in situations where I need people to see around corners, right? Or my processes aren't as tight to where I can level someone up faster. So that is my talent advice for you. So I hope this helps. I love this topic about quality over quantity. I hope some of this little Q&A at the end is also helpful. Feel free to DM me your questions, and I will get to those questions as well too. And have a great rest of your week. Make sure to follow the profile. Make sure, if you guys don't know, there's a little bell up there. You can hit follow on the profile. We go live pretty much every Monday at the same time. We're going to be adding in some other series as we go along. Join me tomorrow for this leadership from go-to-market leader to CEO. And that's what's up. All right. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.